Hello, welcome to Lil's Vintage World. This video is one of my history book reviews where I take a bunch of history books and review them for you. As usual, I'll leave links for them in the description bar below. I've got loads to share with you today. I've been reading an awful lot of history books, so let me get into them. I'm actually currently reading one right now as we speak as well. So yeah, the first one I was sent for review by Pen and Sword. So thank you, Pen and Sword, but the rest are just mine that I've bought randomly. The first one is The Lost Queen by Anne Scott, the life and tragedy of the Prince Regent's daughter. Now, this book, oh, it's lovely. This book is a biography of Charlotte. Charlotte, who you may read about in books on Queen Victoria right at the beginning because Charlotte died. Charlotte was the daughter of King George IV, and sadly her and her child died in childbirth. And it's really sad because she was a great hope to the Hanoverians, and this is a biography about her. Now, her mother and father had a real difficult kind of marriage, and Charlotte grew up in that, which couldn't have been easy, but it's fascinating to learn about her, and not just to learn about her in, you know, one or two paragraphs in a book about Queen Victoria. So yeah, it's a great book, and if you're interested in the Hanoverians or Queen Victoria, or just learning a bit about Charlotte and what might have been and her life that she did have, then pick this up because this is really, really good. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. I need a place to book my books. Okay, the next book is actually a reread for me. I reread this recently because it's been a few years. I say a few years, quite a few years. And I don't think I've ever mentioned it on my channel, but it's one that you should definitely pick up if you're interested in Anne Boleyn or just Tudor history. And this is The Life and Death of Anne Boleyn by Eric Ives. This book is brilliant. This is like the ultimate text. This is the ultimate biography. I think that's what I need to say on Anne Boleyn. It's brilliant. It's so good because it's got all the bits that you need to know about there and more. And it's quite emotionally written, particularly the end where we know what's going to happen. And that chapter where Anne Boleyn's head's, you know, no longer on its shoulders, I read actually 3 times over because it was just so emotionally engaging. And I love the fact that he finishes on a question. Like, he talks, as you know, Elizabeth I is my historical heroine, and he talks about the fact that Elizabeth, when she becomes queen, does that mean that her mother Anne Boleyn is vindicated? ? And it's like, leave you thinking. So yeah, pick this up if you're interested in Tudor history or Anne Boleyn because it's just brilliant. Then we have one that actually I took to Instagram and said, should I read this or this? And lots of you said this, so I read it. And this is Lucy Worsley, Queen Victoria, daughter, wife, mother, widow. So this book is, by the way, I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. I'll just sneak that in there. But this book is set in parts. So we have part 1, The Naughty Daughter, part 2, The Good Wife, and part 3, The Widow of Windsor. And each part we take a day or a few days and discuss an event of that time. So part 1, A Naughty Daughter, chapter 1, Double Wedding, and that is the wedding of her parents. Chapter 2, Birth, you kind of get the idea. Part 3, Wet Feet, that's the death of her father. You get the idea. So each chapter isn't this happened between this dates and this happened between this dates. It's not that sort of biography. It's just this happened on these days, this happened on these days. And do you know what? I really enjoyed it. I really liked Lucy Worsley's writing style. It's very fictionalised and she really tells a story. I did feel like it was a bunch of short stories put together, and I really liked that. Highly recommend that, actually. Definitely pick it up. I'm someone who's a bit on the fence about Queen Victoria because, as you know, I love the suffragettes and it feels a bit about Queen Victoria, but I am trying to learn more about her. So yeah, that's a great one to go to. Then I have The House Party, A Short History of Leisure, Pleasure and the Country House Weekend by Adrian Tennis. Look at this book, isn't it beautiful? It's also beautiful on the inside because look at that, isn't it nice? So this is very much what it says on the tin. It's a history of house parties, and it has beautiful pictures in it too. What are? it's a history of house parties and, you know, how you should do one, what food you put on, who do you invite, etc, etc. And do you know what? I liked it, but I didn't love it. And this book was such a shame because this book should be the size of like this book. Like, look how thick that is and how thin that is. There's stuff in here that I thought that needed a lot more expanding on. I feel like on Adrian's desk there was loads and loads of papers left that should have gone into a book, and it's just too concise. It needed to be longer, essentially. So I did like it, but it was just too short for me. You know, I needed more information. So yeah, sorry. So the next book I have is Rival Queens, The Betrayal of Mary Queen of Scots by Kate Williams. I met Kate Williams at Cheltenham Literature Festival back in 2019, and this book was brilliant. This is so good. So this is, as you can see on the cover, a kind of biography of Mary Queen of Scots and Elizabeth I as well. So we're talking about Mary Queen of Scots and her relationship with people like Elizabeth I, where the relationship is quite troubled, shall we say. This book was really good. I often struggle with books on Mary Queen of Scots because Elizabeth I is my historical heroine, and a lot of people that write about Mary Queen of Scots, they absolutely like go in for Elizabeth, like how she did this and this and this and she's so nasty. It's like, I know she's not an angel, but really lay into her. And Kate doesn't do that. Kate's just like, here are the facts and I'm exploring them for you. And you can tell that she really put like all her heart and soul in this book, and it's so good, and you should read it because it's great, and I really enjoyed it. It was a book on Mary Queen of Scots that I really enjoyed because I don't feel like Elizabeth got thrown under a bus. Then we have Margaret Beaufort, Mother of the Tudor Dynasty by Elizabeth Norton. Elizabeth Norton is one of those authors for me that I can go to and I know I'm going to enjoy. And a book on Margaret Beaufort, of course I'm going to enjoy it. So Margaret Beaufort was the mother of Henry VII. She's kind of the mother of the Tudor dynasty sort of thing. She's very, very powerful. And she ended her life by being an advisor to Henry VIII. So, you know, Henry VIII was her grandson, by the way, if you don't know your history. She was a real powerhouse and a real inspiration, and I don't feel a lot of people know enough about her, and she's so good. And Elizabeth Norton writes in such a way that you can just read it and read it and read it, and it's just wonderful. It's only a short little book, so it doesn't take you long at all. I read this in a day because I'm that type of person, but yeah, it's great. And then finally, another one that I really enjoyed was The Pleasure Garden by Anne Scott James and Osbert Lancaster. Look at this, isn't it fab? I picked this up when I went to Hay-on-Wye when we were coming back from Wales. So this book just has a couple of pages on certain gardens through history. So this one is Roman Britain, and it just talks about them. But then we have, the best thing is these lovely illustrations, and it's just wonderful. So it's only a few pages on different gardens, but then the illustrations as well. I really enjoyed this book. I don't know if this book is in print or not. I will see if I can link it below, then I will, but if not, you might have to do your own digging to get your copy. But if you're interested, like me, in the history of gardening, then pick this up. I think I'm going to lend this to my dad now to read because I think he'll really enjoy it, and my dad is an absolute whiz at gardening. He is the gardening king. So yeah, there we go. So there we have it. I hope you've enjoyed this book reviews. I now need to lie down. That is a lot of history books I've been reading recently. I would love to know what history books you have been reading recently. I'm always after some recommendations, and that's it for this video. So take care, and I shall see you soon for the next one. Bye for now.